for the It's up, the stream is up, it's for the And yeah, hello everybody. Welcome to the quarterfinals Mappool showcase. My name is Juan Crystal. This is gonna be very, very quick. Although I'm gonna make it very slow now. Yeah, like I said, I'm Juan Crystal. Let's start over from the get-go for the quarterfinals Mappool showcase is starting right now. I'm gonna be commentating this. My name is Juan Crystal, alongside no other that this time Paturash. And we don't have Sun Apple. I'm very sad.
Yeah, Sun Apple is not going to be with us tonight. Unfortunately, was not available for this time, but we are indeed excited to present you the quarterfinals map pool. Yeah, we are entering mid-game. Early game is over. The maps are getting hard. Teams are getting eliminated. We're gonna show you the bracket after this showcase, and wow, this bracket is like shaping up already.
Yeah, I think we can give some like closing thoughts to round 16 before starting the showcase itself, and maybe not necessarily spoil, but like talk a little bit of what to expect this next pool is gonna look like. As Patu was saying, we are starting to exit, or rather fully exiting the early game stages of the tournament. We're entering into the mid-game. Maps are getting quite challenging, more physical, more technical. So the intent here is that, well, given this is the first stage where some teams have already been eliminated, the pool will scale in difficulty rather quickly. And as a consideration compared to previous pool, I'm genuinely a bit surprised by how much teams crushed round 16. Like, it was intense. Very nice to see. We saw a lot of 6-4s. We saw a tiebreaker too as well. So quite a close stage, which I think it's fairly normal for round 16. It's the the stage where losers bracket usually gets fairly contested. But we saw very big seed differences having very close matches. I can recall Australia versus Mexico, for example, seed 14 against seed 30. That got almost a tiebreaker in favor of Mexico there. And that's just one of many. Spain against Brazil was tiebreaker, and it was very, very close. And overall, it seems had a significant chance of winning all maps, really, because I think most teams are just versatile enough. They're just that good nowadays. At least in the Rise department, it felt like everyone could just have at least above the 991, 992k. So it was quite a thing. I am not necessarily a bit surprised, but quite pleased to see how much stronger the 4 digits have gotten with time.
Yeah, I think the reception of the map pool in terms of difficulty has been a little bit kind of surprised, maybe compared to last year. I feel like every single year we're reiterating the 4-digit experience. Like the difficulty just goes up and up and up, and because all of the players as a community, we are getting better at the game, and so the 4-digit standard is also getting higher. So you might be a little bit surprised to how hard those quarterfinal picks are, but I want to say, like, I was playtesting those maps, and my scores were all over the place. I got like from 900k to 985k in some of those maps, and I want to say, like, the difficulty, there's something for everyone in there.
Yeah, pools are getting intense. We're starting to reach this sort of level where the qualifiers were initially thought about. I still think I'm Gone is going to be harder than like the entirety of this pool. So would be Wave and Hallucination. But everything else, I think we're already moving past the difficulty of every single other qualifying stage. So I guess that is enough of a prelude for this pool, isn't it? Do you think we are missing something?
Yeah, well, there's not much to say. Like, the pool is the same size. We're gonna have the same, like, BO. What is it? Like BO9, BO11? I kind of.
No, that's BO11. It's first to 6 still, and pool size still the same. Category still the same. So not significant changes there. We only have conditional matches. That's the only new thing that happens in quarterfinals. So, but we'll get to that once we get to the bracket, and that will be after the showcase itself.
Yeah, indeed. Let's dive into it. Actually, you'll see what we mean when we talk about difficulty and so on. Anyways, starting with rice number one, and that is gonna be the quote unquote easy rice pick. And wait for it, wait for it.
There it
Uh,
goes. It is DOSE. DOSE. Rice number one. This is a very fun map.
Yeah, shout outs to Intervals. Intervals is kind of a based band as a whole. Like I'm coming from a clone hero background here, and it's always a pleasure to see some like Guitar Hero core song choices here. And this one is kind of technical, but in a pretty flowy slash dumpy way. Um, Alptown has some ranked maps, pretty interesting maps, pretty interesting mapper as a whole. You should check them out. And
It's
this
also a
one,
3-minute
yeah,
shot, so it's a bit longer than what we have average last stage. And it has some tricky lens at the start, that much be true. And there are some in between, like this one. With all the 8.5, that could be challenging. But the main thing is just the rise here. It is a bit straightforward though. It doesn't really have something specific that can make you trip or anything. It's just that the snaps are a bit all over the place, and with all the 8.5, that can be very hard to hit properly and with accuracy. So this is the kind of patterns that you will likely be dropping a few 200s.
yeah. Honestly, like this might be the quote unquote easy rice pick, so to speak, but it's not. It's not like easy for me. I might be getting a decent score on it. Like this is one of my the 980Ks on it. But this is still pretty challenging to act. Like you mentioned the OD 8.5, and with those snaps, it's really challenging to get like as less 200s as possible. Like you're gonna get some 200s, let's be fair. And honestly, let's just reiterate the philosophy of those pools as a whole in terms of rice and LNs. You will get some LNs in your rice, and you'll get some rice in your LNs. That's just how maps are. It is a spectrum.
Surely, and it's just as you saw just before, you have that very nasty one-hand trail on the right hand, so potentially some people may want to go for mirror in a map like this, but if you do, you have to be careful that it repeats at some point on the left hand, just not as long as it was before. But overall, sort of the standard consistency pick, but it runs for a fair bit, so it's not something you can lose your mental accuracy or your mental consistency as much. And there's the red flashbang alert.
Got so much red in this 40M. I don't know what's up with that. It's like the color of 40M.
It's not at all, but yeah, let's go to Rice 2. So now into the medium category. Yeah, that's a fun. I was about to say that a funny background was incoming. So chili sauce it is, a custom map here by Kimui.
Oh
And
yeah,
it is
this one.
yeah, this one.
Oh yeah, this one. I remember playing this, and my first impression when I played this map was like, this is really tight. Like this is really tight. Like the bursts and so on are so like abrupt, and this song as a whole is like pretty fast paced, and you have to be on your toes like constantly. It really is I want to say like it has kind of a broken jump stream structure like all the way. So you have to have this stop and start motion like all the way, and you can see the snaps are like not straight 1/4, and yeah, that requires you to basically have 100% focus all the way.
Yeah, there was a high degree of concentration, and this sort of gallopy patterns are very, very hard to hit at this speed. This is way faster than what it looks, and the fact that you have so many breaks in between and unpredictable burst for the most part makes this a map that you have to be very, very focused to play properly. I don't think it has like a very strict high physical requirement, but you really need to know the map quite well or have very good reading abilities to understand the flow of this particular chart because it's so broken. It has so many broken rhythms, and the snaps, as Fatih was saying, are not just straight one forward. So it's very, very difficult, and it has very, very complicated technical patterns as well. Those mini jacks are no joke, and there are a fair amount of instances where you have to play with a single hand, and that is very, very tricky to coordinate with the rest.
Yeah, when you compare this pick to Rice One, like Rice One is really, really smooth. Like when I played Rice One, it was like, yeah, I was just enjoying the music and just flowing along the music. This, I was on my toes. I was sweating.
Yeah, it's a map that can drain you a lot. And we are glad to introduce this sort of new wave of mappers as well to the tournament scene. Kimoi has been very helpful and they have been working a fair bit in the background, so I'm glad they are collaborating here.
Yeah, honestly, shout outs to Kimmy for a pretty fun custom map, and I hope you guys enjoyed as well. Like, give props to mappers, play their other maps as well. Like, we introduce new mappers so that people can be introduced to their other maps as well. Like, it is one way to build your collection of maps, and that's how I did it in the past by just participating in random tournaments.
All right, let's go into Rise number 3 here. Rise 3, and you have Imbus. Yeah, that's just for the
Yeah, Rice pick, by the way.
one of none. This is a map by Maya, and yes, that's the only spook you're gonna have on a lens. The inverse on a Rise map. That's something you probably never heard of before. But trust me, that's the only thing that you really need to pay attention to. The rest is mostly the sort of core jack pick, but with some middle streams in the middle. So it's kind of like Rise 1 in the previous stages, just that on a faster speed and, of course, way more physically demanding pattern.
Yeah, like most of you might be familiar with Aeolian Carp's One of None, which is really, really anchory and really gimmicky, I want to say. This one is a little bit more tame, I want to say, but still has that kind of the same element due to the song choice, anyways. But you can see the snaps are really much more like structured. There's a lot more 1/4. You can see some bursts here, but it is hard for the course of front, anyways. But it is pretty easy to read. I think it is pretty easy to read, but to execute it, there's like many mind blocks awaiting you. Maybe less mind blocks than Aeolian Cobb's map though.
Yeah, those kind of patterns that you saw over there, that you have like 2 note trills after going from core jacks, it's very, very tricky to transition from that type of pattern to the other, at least for me personally, and I expect many teams to have problems or difficulties with that, perhaps dropping accuracy, some even dropping combo. But this is just the run-of-the-mill sort of core jacky pick that is very, very fast, but also somewhat light.
Also the 8.4, that puts the focus on accuracy. And this one, a lot of you might be already familiar with this pick because it has been picked in many tournaments already, but here we go, Slamurai 1.05. It was originally at OD 9.3, it is now nerfed at OD 8.5, and that is the only change that we're making to this map. This map is really, really infamous in my library. This is my worst skill set. This is hands down my worst skill set because it deals with one-handed coordination, and I've mind blocked like at least 10 patterns on this map.
This is the kind of tech that is very specific, and a lot of players, like you said, struggle with it. And I think it's mostly due to this not being a type of map you see very often. But as you can see, the way that the jacks flow from one column to another, it's quite difficult to spot, I feel, and that's what causes so much issues with it. Like the structure of the pattern itself, it's like not extremely aesthetic to spot, and you may not even realize that some of those patterns include jacks in the middle, and that can be hard to execute. Like the moment you're hitting the pattern, you realize, yo, that was supposed to be a jack, and it is too late. You already missed, or you already got a 200.
Yeah, this map is incredibly tight, and it requires you to have incredible mastery of graces as a whole to get good accuracy on this. Like, it is really, really easy to miss on this type of map because it requires also incredible coordination as a whole. Like coordination, you might think of coordination as a long node skill set, but coordination is also very much required for this type of rice pick, like very specific type of rice pick.
Finger independency right up.
Yeah, finger independence is a skill set also. Like if you have finger independence on rice, it also helps you have finger independence for lens. So it is a one of a kind. It is a one of a kind skill set, I want to say. But really, Slamurai is pretty mind blockable, so you might not want to train that map as much as the others. Otherwise, you might have some bad surprises in match.
We're talking about training maps. Rise 5, the hardest of them all in the Rise department. It is Mint Tango by Commissar. Custom map here by Randomelo.
Yeah, just another new mapper in the tournament scene, I want to say. Like, Randomelo, Randome is not a new name in the community at all. Like, they've been putting hard work in as like a BN, metadata checker, the project lab, and just basically every single aspect of the tournament of the community. Really, just not really in a tournament situation, but here we go. That is a custom map by Randomilo, and as much as this is like the quote-unquote hard rice, I have like my score on this is one of the best ones I've got actually. So I think the people who have the physicality to sustain this map, and this map is like 3 minutes long. It is pretty stamina heavy. The ones who have the stamina to sustain this map will shine. Like you have, if you have players in your team that shine in late game, then this is the map for them. Like this is the physical map that where you are scoring well if you are basically monkey physicality.
Yep. This is like the strong pick, I will argue, for the Rise department, because some of those streams just never seem to stop. They are very, very long jump streams there with a lot of mini jacks in between, and the transitioning patterns are so rigid. They're so tricky to hit properly as well, and a lot of players could just miss on those transitions. I personally find that the longer streams are easier to play if you have the physicality, but if you have the physicality, these transitions are also still ridiculously hard because it requires so much control, and you can easily drop the combo at any one of those mini jacks, especially the ones that have hands right before them. The density picks up a little bit, and it's just a big mess. A lovely mess, don't get me wrong, but you need to have like pretty much every skill set nailed quite throughoutly, and you also need physical abilities to play this. So it's a very complex and complete Rise map.
Yeah, I want to say like I think the players who usually shine in jump stream stamina maps are gonna have the most fun and probably the best scores on this map compared to other maps which are more technical and require more finesse.
Brute force map. I like that way.
Yeah, it's not a jump stream map. You can see some mini jacks here and there, but the mini jacks are pretty structured and flow pretty well with the map, so it's pretty easy to handle. But it's essentially a mixed rice if you want to categorize it.
Oh, this ending, dude. The amount of times this map is going to get decided by the ending because how much it drains you and the stamina already dead. Oh my god. Can't
Yeah,
wait
it's
for
pretty backloaded. Yeah, I think a fair amount of matches might end up being decided by the ending because by the ending you are tired.
You should be at the very least. But hey, that's all for Rise. Straight into the hybrids. Into Hybrid
Yeah,
1, which is still kind of a Rise pick.
Yeah, we are
I'm
transitioning from Rise to Elens here, so this is gonna be the most Rise you're gonna see in a hybrid. And my impression here is that this hybrid played like a Rise map. Like sure, there are some long nodes, but the long nodes kind of flow pretty well. But this, I had a way lower score on this than on the previous hard Rise map. So
also
this is treacherous.
fair to say, this map has a special surprise, and you're about to see it. Hello there, we have SVs on hybrid.
It's a hybrid SV. Welcome back, hybrid SVs. We're in 2024, and we are pulling SV hybrids. Let's go.
So yeah, this is mostly a Rise-oriented hybrid, although very a hybrid, I will argue. It has some lens in the middle, but it has that SV that repeats once. So, haha. Welcome.
So okay, I wanna utter one of the funniest feedbacks I've ever had on quarterfinals. There are 10,000 ways people could get a low score on this. Whether it be the SV slowdown, the long notes, the physicality of the ride, you can drop score for any reason on this map. And this is such a wild pick.
It is. And the reactions on the chat are also kind of funny, because this is a fairly known map, and it was very funny to see everyone like, wait, did they actually remove some of the LNs? Did they actually remove like maybe the SVs? No, not at all. Enjoy. That's a great difficulty name as well.
Yeah. Speaking of difficulty names, like you might notice when you go on the map set of this map, there's a low LN difficulty. I suggested the low LN difficulty. People told me, nah, let's just use this difficulty.
We ball. But this is a very complex, I think, map for the most part. The Rise is quite difficult. There's a lot of trills, and those can be quite challenging to hit. Mostly because of how much you have to transition from one style to another. A lot of sort of not necessarily staccato lens, but very short ones, and hands that intrude their way into the pattern. So you really have to go back and forth between different styles, and the SPs in the middle can just catch you off guard if you're focused too much on the playstyle.
Yeah, honestly, like I want to mention other reasons why you might drop scores. Like you see those graces, you see those really weird snaps. That's another element of the map, and I think this is like one of the riskiest picks of the pool for sure. I don't expect many teams to pick
Hybrid
it.
2 is coming. Like, Hybrid 2 is coming, so I'm
no,
not sure about that.
Wait for Hybrid 3, man. Wait for Hybrid 3, because that one, like, just nah. But
let's go
into Hybrid 2, man. Let's go into Hybrid 2.
Oxygen Destroyer, and that's how I feel when I'm playing this map. I feel like I'm lacking a bit of air. There's a custom map here by Asphyxiate. Not Asphyxiate, by Rev, rather. This is the difficulty is Asphyxiate, my bad. But banger song here, and yeah, this is an interesting hybrid, I will argue. Yeah, we're starting to get into the more 50-50 types of hybrids, though.
Yeah, one of the reasons why it's interesting is because it's another Blue Archive custom.
Yep. I mean, this is just Blue Archive World Cup at this point.
Yeah, essentially. But while playtesting, I found this to be one of the easiest maps in the pool, actually, so...
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have much to it. This is kind of like, what was the map last stage? Hybrid 3, I think it was. So it's like run-of-the-mill sort of rank style chart on the hybrid department. It maybe has some more tricky patterns on the mini-jacks, like the kind of patterns that we see on the mini-jacks are mostly fairly flowy, but you eventually have those 1 to 2 threes that are kind of weird to play, at least for me. They are not like very commonly used. And then you have this density LN transitions that could be troublesome to some players, but they are like nothing too over the top. So I expect this to be a fairly popular pick for teams that are not like very well versed on physicality and they want to avoid the harder spectrum of the Rise or the harder spectrum of the LNs.
Yeah, honestly, this plays really smooth, and it's kind of pretty run-of-the-mill. It's pretty quote-unquote density-oriented in terms of LN, and the bursts might be a little bit technical here and there. The bursts might be a little bit dumpy, but I think this map plays pretty well compared to what you are going to see in Hybrid 3. And Hybrid 3 is like my nightmare.
Yeah, next hybrid is if next hybrid gets played at all, I'm gonna be very happy.
Yeah, like you might think Hybrid 1 you might think Hybrid 1 is going to be the most banned map in the pool. Um let's go
So
into
hybrid
Hybrid 3.
3, yeah. So hybrid 3, um, we're gonna give it some time to introduce itself.
The song is really good, by the way.
It is Restless Song, custom map by Dr. Mango. And do we have the screenshot of your comment about this map?
I can quote myself. I played this map today. I got the 915k. 915. 1-5. Not 5-0. 1-5. I got a 980k on other maps in the same pool. And one of my next line was, yeah, no, today's not a Brango Dreamwalker Tickle Dr. Mango day for me. Fuck this.
Straight up. There we go. Not even censoring the comment. Well, as you can see, this is the kind of map that you would expect from Dr. Mango, obviously. But it is so challenging. Like, the LN releases are quite honestly all over the place, and the reverse shields are insanely tight, very hard to hit, and it's something that is very, very strict. Like, there's a lot of people who struggle with this, and even so, this is only 5.9. You would expect this to be somewhat easy to hack. Let me tell you, this is anything but easy to hack. Thank God and everyone that this is just OD 5.9.
Yeah, like this map is wild, and wild is an understatement. I wanted to push this map for semifinals. It is that wild. And I'm not a puller, so I don't really have much power in say here, but I think that the decision to include this kind of difficulty in this map pool is, yeah, it is pretty risky, but I think it might benefit players who might be good at Brango, Angel Echo type of picks and so on.
I mean, if you're a combo master, then you may like this pick, because this is the kind of map that I expect to see chokes. Even, I would argue you can like, not necessarily column lock, but with the OD being this low, you could have instances on LNs that you hit too early, and the judgment is like extremely bad, and that drops a lot of accuracy or even your combo. But the patterns are so rigid and it's so strict. Like, the right hand over there was extremely overloaded, and you'll see a lot of instances of mini jacking on a hand that you're holding with the other finger, and that's just very, very rude to play.
Yeah, you mentioned that kind of interaction, and those interactions happen a lot on one hand as well, and that's like my worst skill set. And all the shields and coordination aspects of this map make this map really, really easy to combo rate into. Like, I had a okay accuracy, but I had 13 misses in my play today. 13.
This is the kind of map that if you're a long no player, you don't want to play. If you're a Rise player, you also don't want to play. So, perfect hybrid.
But yeah, thank you, Dr. Mango, for this banger. Honestly, like, this is a really good map, a really good song, especially. Like, the song choice of Dr. Mango lately has been like top notch.
So hybrid 4 now, the LM plus Rise, if you will, mapped by Usidism and another custom.
Yeah. What I can say about this map is I don't remember playing this map, and it is incredibly funny to me because it's called Lapse of Memory.
Yeah, it has this awkward rhythm that it's somewhat hard to follow, it feels, but it has a lot of, I wouldn't want to say coordination aspects, although this is a pretty intense coordination hybrid. but like you don't really have much going on other than that. So as long as you can read the patterns properly, I think the LN transitions are fairly simple to do. It's just that, well, the rise is quite intrusive. Like as a long node player, I struggle with the rise in between the LNs in this pick more than with the LNs itself. So if rise players can take advantage of that, this may be the kind of hybrid that can break point out of an LN team.
Yeah, I think the structure of the LNs themselves is pretty interesting in terms of Mappool variety, because there's a lot of quote-unquote core jack LNs going on. So that requires a fair amount of coordination and benefits long node players who play on 1/4 snaps and so on. So I think this is pretty comfortable to act despite the graces here and there. The rise transitions do make the hybrid aspect of this map, but this map is like primarily long node focused.
And it speeds up at the very ending here, so some players might struggle with the speed up here, and drops maybe help. So that could be another point where the map gets decided. It goes on and on for a little bit, but it isn't too fast, neither too long of a speed up. So I think this could be a fairly popular pick again for teams that are more in a disadvantage when it comes to physical abilities.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a quote-unquote accuracy pick, especially when you saw what was like hybrid 3 or hybrid 1 or maybe any of the other picks. But let's go into the actual long node pool to see what long node players can chew on.
So long node 1 is interesting because it actually has the wrong background, which is very funny, but that doesn't matter. This is a Melee World Execute Me. It's a collab between Logan and myself, so thank you, Logan. Hello there. The replayer is not sudden death, by the way. I'm not sure why that's labeled as that, but I believe this was Logan's replay, or at least that's what I sent Danny. So otherwise, just blame Danny. But yeah, this is the LN easy map, and it's easy on the physical side of things. I'll say that much, but otherwise, I struggle so much with this. Like, there's a lot of overextended LNs, and that can be very, very challenging to follow through. Like, you see there's a lot of instances where you have to be holding the 4 notes at the same time, and all the release timings are on different times, and that is very, very tricky to get right, especially when the map is this calm and slow, which is hard. Like, it's hard to pick up the rhythms in a low amount of density like this, and in a song by Melee that is well known to have a lot of different instruments playing at the same time. So you really need to focus a lot to understand which is the instrument that is being followed by the longer you're holding in order to release it properly.
Yeah, you just got the mapper perspective here. For the player perspective, I thought this map was pretty interesting in its structure because you can see like the first half is pretty mild in terms of physicality. Like the teams who are the least physically capable in terms of LNs are gonna have a heyday on this map. Aiming for accuracy, especially on the releases and so on, pretty typical of One Crystal maps. The second half is gonna be more, I want to say, coordination shield oriented, and you'll see that coming.
You'll see that real soon. Yeah, you have this sort of longness that get extended through time with the 1/8 mini burst, and that can also be quite difficult to hit. I personally don't expect many teams to be dropping much accuracy on the first hop, but certainly combo due to how tricky some of the holds are. Not necessarily the releases, but holding the node long enough. It happens to me a lot that I release too early when I'm supposed to release a different finger, so that can be something people struggle with. And after we get to like this 2500 combo mark, the song starts to pick up a little bit, and 1/4 start to become the predominant snap, and you have this mini checks intruding your way into the sort of inverse patterning. And in the last KI, it's a bit of a mix, like a salad that includes everything that you have seen so far. 1/6 snaps all over the place, combined with 1/4, so polyrhythm, inverse streams with very tight release timings. It has a bit of everything, but physically, it never really goes all in. It's mostly technical, and it's something that most players should be able to coordinate properly if they have the alien abilities. And personally, I think this transitions here on the love, they are kind of tricky to hit as well.
Yeah, I get a feeling that the map wakes up as a whole, starting from the mini jacks. I almost get the feeling that this map kind of wakes up from one mapper to the other, but I don't want to speculate on who mapped which section.
That's actually a funny theory, but like the main, I think Galsna fits with the theme of the song. It just gets more powerful progressively. And yeah, that's a funny display of the background. Let's just move to long note 2. Actually, that looks a bit broken. So we have a Barracuda by Wolfew. Yes,
Oh
this
yeah,
song.
shoutouts to Wolfew. I didn't even know Wolfew had long nose maps, to be honest. But this is gonna be, I think, it's gonna be your pretty quote-unquote standard density. It still has some release elements, as usual, in this tournament. But it is gonna be, I think, the physically oriented map.
It has Rise though. What the hell? This is not a Larno map. I bet no alien player is ever saying that. But hey, as we start progressing through this sort of junction sections, this is a pretty techy long no map for the most part. You need to be able to coordinate a fair amount with those. Though the release times are not necessarily all that tricky, most of the release are, you know, together with each other. It's just a matter of reading the pattern properly and not getting lost in the snaps, because the snaps are a bit tricky to hit.
Wait,
And
I thought it was the density map. I think I mistook this song with another one.
This is more like a, if you want to say like OMLN standards, this is kind of like a wild card in some axes, but it's mostly flammy and the rhythm based long note chart.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map right now and it's like, oh yeah, I was looking at the wrong map. Oops. This is kind of a tech-oriented wildcard if you wanna describe it by OMLN parlance. But it is pretty interesting in terms of Mappool variety. And in terms of Mappool variety, it clashes. Well, it contrasts well with against World Execute Me, which was the previous LN, and it's gonna contrast even more with the next LN that you're gonna see, LN number 3, which is much more of a wildcard oriented long node, and that is an actual wildcard, and that is gonna be a pretty special type of wildcard. It's gonna be a swing wildcard.
Yeah, map pilot here, another custom map. So we went from a slow / coordination release oriented map to a flammy, swingy, LN techie map into this sort of more strictly wildcard as we all know it type of map. And this is mostly off the back of a song that doesn't really have a very easy to follow structure. The rhythms are quite broken, so it makes the structure of the map quite tricky to follow visually. But that pattern is super fun to hit.
Yeah, honestly,
yeah, following the ball call.
Yeah, Lot did a really great job, like conceptualizing this map, because in terms of concept, I think like from what I can tell, Lot based himself on the swing structure of the song, and also added some releases for flow. And as a whole, I think the flow of this map fits really well in terms of execution.
I mean, yes.
Right.
Right. No, this is just a overall pretty funny swingy map, and I think it looks a bit rougher than what it actually is in reality. The main problem with this is that the pattern doesn't really give you any open space, really. Usually when you have this kind of swingy maps, the releases stop with the swing. But in this particular instance, the releases kind of overextend through the swing into the next pattern, and that can be very tricky to coordinate because your fingers are used to follow the swing rather than follow the release timings. And I would expect to see many 200s in that particular area in this map.
Yeah, like when I was playtesting this map, I thought that this map was so straining in terms of. I don't think it's straining in terms of physicality, but the density of it all, like the things it throws at you constantly throughout this whole map, made me want to focus on combo rather than accuracy. I could not aim for accuracy on this map at all.
Well, this is kind of like my jam, so I can't judge it too fairly. Like, this is the kind of maps I think I'm pretty, like, comfortable playing with. But that quad, though, that quad I struggle so much with. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I just cannot hit a quad, ever. No matter how isolated it is, especially if it is a full quad long note, I just can't do it.
So you found the way to kill one crystal. Just throw some quad in it.
Quad crystal.
Quad crystal, oh my god.
But yeah, overall the map is it also has this consistency element, right? Because it's a 3-minute 24 song and it's across the board fairly standardized. Like, it doesn't really have any spikes in it. There's a portion of it where the density picks up a little bit, especially on the TIs. But other than that, the map structure is fairly standard and fairly like consistent through the entirety of the map. So if you can hold your ground on it, you will most likely be fine through the entirety of it. And this is a map that I will expect teams that are consistent on end to be picking quite often.
Yeah, honestly, pretty interesting map. And the next one is a pretty interesting pick because it's going to be a reuse from OMLN 3, not on the same rate, mind you, but it is another editation, 1.05 from Gil's Viden. So a lot of people.
Fun story. I think we had another map planned for this spot instead of Viden, but we couldn't get to the mapper to make the edges we wanted and like the rates we wanted. So instead we had to settle for Beaten by Gil Messiat. So yeah, fun stuff here. This is I think we're starting to enter, you know, sort of, I don't want to say inverse territory, but this is clearly the closer one to a density pick I think we have.
Yeah, I think like this is the density pick, but as you know, we are not fans of standard density picks, so this requires a fair amount of coordination still, and some of those short long notes are gonna have to require a little bit of finesse to get their accuracy right. The snaps are still pretty quote-unquote easy to get accuracy on, thanks to the edits, but I think like the structure of this map, like this map is pretty compelling in terms of, I think, strategizing.
It's a very tricky one though. The inverse portions of this are very challenging to hit because the inverse pattern tracks for a bit and it extends almost fully. So that is something players could struggle with. Otherwise, this sort of skill type of pattern where all the releases kind of join together at the end of it, which is not necessarily something that like it's very popular for LM mappers to do, but certainly something quite unique here, and I expect some teams to struggle with. It's a very fun map otherwise. Even with that, I think still pretty fun map.
Yeah, I think like Viden's gonna be one of the maps that are gonna be focused on by the most teams because it's most likely one of the most affordable in the long note map pool. And speaking of affordable, let's go into the complete opposite, the hardest LN pick of the pool. It's going to be Tricolor Prism from Fola. And you know Fola from their pretty uniquely styled wildcard, and that is going to be one of them.
Oh my god, I hate that pattern. That pattern just murders me every time. The intro here is very easy to mind block, and overall the transitions with the burst Like those right in the middle of those words are so tricky to coordinate because they are not consistent and they are just very hard to read. You can slip your finger. Like usually hitting the pattern with the finger that is supposed to hit it is not the problem, but problem is not releasing the other notes that are in the middle. That is the hard bit of it.
Yeah, what's interesting about this map is that it has pretty much everything. Like you can see some technicalities here, like some grazes, some releases, staggered releases, coordination aspects, one-handed shenanigans. Pretty much everything Fulla is throwing at you right here, and this is the definition of a all-rounded wildcard, and that is also has the identity of Fulla pretty much here.
It really just screaming at you, hey, I made this, and his voice is Fulla.
Yeah, I love Fulla.
They make good maps. Oh my god, that is almost another big troll point there. The density picks up a little bit and it's pretty tricky to follow. And the pattern gets too, like, congested. Or like, there's a lot going on at the same time here. And if you're not well versed with, like, understanding what the map is trying to accomplish here, like, if you cannot read the density properly, you're just gonna blow up. That pattern is very, very difficult.
Yeah, honestly, like, when playtesting, like this was one of the hardest maps to sustain for me. Like the physicality was starting to get on me here. So this was this was one of the most difficult maps to sustain in terms of stamina for me. And that is a long note pick. But over with the long notes, let's go into probably the most interesting part of the showcase. That's going to be the SVs. Going from round of 16 to quarterfinals, I want to say the difficulty shoots up a little bit too much in my
Quite
opinion.
tremendously,
But,
yes.
yeah, it's going to be a little bit spicy, but I think it's going to give some interesting matchups.
Yeah, so yeah, you have to jump.
So yeah, like reading the snaps in the beginning here and right into some really gimmicky memorization, and that is going to be a custom map from Alex Dunk. Thank you, Alex Dunk, for providing us throughout the years many SV.
Oh, that is so evil, though. That kind of
that
pattern
gimmick,
is so
I love
evil.
that gimmick. Like the amount of jacks increases and the gap diminishes. It is such an interesting gimmick, and also the scroll speed. The scroll speed actually goes into a fast jam, but the gap between the jacks, like between the columns, is diminishing like to 0. And wow, like all the gimmicks in this map are so interesting. I think if you want to categorize it, this is the most memorization based SV.
Oh, that trail is so ugly as well. Oh my god, I can see a lot of teams dropping there. Overall, I think the Jack gimmick, it's kind of like find you off guard, but once you realize the way you have to play it, it's something that you can make a rule for. Oh, I love that as well, by the way. You can see there's like one invisible Jack over there. Like it's not invisible, it's telegraphed in fact, I think so.
Yeah, it's pretty well telegraphed, and I think we learned a lot about telegraphing, especially in last year's MWC. We did a lot of experimentation with the format, and I think like telegraphing is the future of SV. And telegraphing is also key to having a good quarterfinals experience, but this is a little bit not too intuitive. I think a lot of teams are gonna have to spend a fair amount of time to grasp this, because the structure, the song structure of typical thrubs here is a little bit hard to grasp.
I like how immediately the LN disappears. Oh yeah, there's also this. Yep, beep beep beep. Yep. Remember that. There's also invisible gimmicks on quarterfinals, dude. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, quarterfinals, man. 40M, am I right?
I know, right?
Anyways.
But hey, that's it for SV1. Let's get to SV2. Thank you, Alex, for the map there. Loving it. But now into Hitomania. Map by
Yeah.
Mafufu.
So I mentioned SV1 was memorization based. I don't want to say SV2 is reading based, but this, I want to say it's more intuitive, but still requires some memorization. So this is more of a mixed pick, in my opinion.
Ah,
But yeah, you can see like the stutters are pretty abrupt. They so it requires your eyes to kind of stay on the upper end of your screen, or maybe like even lower your scroll speed, but not too much because some of the slow jumps are really extreme.
I mean, this is like a more physical version of an SV map, I think, as well, because you have those mini jacks that can be tricky. And overall, the patterning is a bit smoother than what we saw previously. The gimmicks themselves are a bit more consistent as well. If you know the song, this is way easier to sight read than the previous one, because the previous one just has very tricky like visual gimmicks for the most part. This in particular, if you know the song and you see the pattern, you kind of can expect how to hit it. You don't really need to pay too much attention on the visual gimmick if you can see the whole pattern before the song takes place.
Yeah, I think if you learn the song itself, you can. They're pretty well. Oh my god, these teleports.
Yeah, those are funny.
But I wanna say something important here. You can see the diff is called mods HR. You do not have to play this on HR. You do not have to play this on HR, I repeat. It is just the diff name. It is just a gimmick in the diff name. You do not have to play this on HR. Just play this without mods.
You do not have to play this with hard rock. Hard rock equals bad. At least in this map. But yeah, this is a pretty scary map, I think, as well. Like, I don't know, the song has this element that is ominous. I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah, like it's pretty aggressive as an SV as a whole. So kind of spicy. And I was telling you about the difficulty of the quarterfinals Mappool on as a whole. Like, I don't expect like 100% quote unquote good scores from teams here. Like you gotta start doing damage control here, so to speak.
You know, this would be such a great time to just take a screenshot of what's going on in the chat here, saying there's no way we get 3 custom tiebreakers in a row. This would be the immense, perfect moment to put that screenshot here and bamboozle everyone, because it would be great if we had a third custom song in a row, right? That would be so good, if only.
Right.
But
If
yeah,
only,
unfortunately, we do not have a third custom song in a row for this one, but we certainly do have a custom map, that's for sure. Because I believe every tiebreaker will be custom map for every single round. This is, of course, not the exception. So yeah, let's just kick it. This tiebreaker is quite the step up compared to everything else. Another Frums one, by the way. This is mapped by Lord, Polarin, Usitism, and Mukotsu. And this is insanely hard. This is 6 stars!
Oh my god, 6 stars in quarterfinals, 4 DM. I'm
4 DM.
Yeah, it's just a funeral at this point.
You know, the map is that it's so hard that it's actually played by auto. Like, think about that.
Yeah,
so
no,
yeah,
I haven't seen this map actually. I haven't even played this map. So I'm just gonna go by sight here.
Yeah, this is where the late game push begins, as they are calling on the chat. And it's only gonna get harder from now on. This is quite a step up compared to the rest of the pool, which makes sense considering the quarterfinals is a stage where a lot of teams get eliminated. We always want to make sure that the most physically capable team gets through if possible, because pools will skyrocket in physicality as it goes through.
Yeah, we can see a lot of technicality actually in this tiebreaker, and I want to say like the technicality is kind of representative of the Mappool so far. Like you can taste the technical bias a little bit here, but it is also pretty physical and it requires a fair amount of mastery of the game itself. Density section here, pretty standard snaps I want to say, but some of the bursts here are pretty treacherous.
Even the release timings feel a bit too odd. Those mini jacks are very tricky to hit, and they are only followed by tight releases, so quite challenging of a transition over there. With only a third way through the map, and we're already 2,500 nodes in. And as you will expect with any tiebreaker, they don't tend to be front-loaded, do they?
Yeah, no, tiebreakers have to be. Well, we like to structure tiebreakers in a certain way so that, like, the climax just comes at the ending. Because if the climax comes at the beginning, then the rest of the map is kind of lackluster, isn't it? It's better to be backloaded than front-loaded, so to speak.
Oh my god, I don't want to take that phrase out of context, but I just can't. I'm sorry, I just can't.
Oh my god, I'm leaving. But yeah, this looks pretty physical. Goddamn.
Yeah, this is very, very challenging. It is certainly one step ahead everything we saw so far in the tournament. The patterns, perhaps not as rough as they could be, but this is certainly way faster than anything. And the LNs in the middle are pretty intrusive here to hit. The specific transitions could give you a break in terms of stamina, physically wise, because the patterns here are a bit more lenient. It's just that they are a bit more tricky to hit due to the nature of mixing and matching two skill sets between Rise and LNs. You have some breaks in between, but the Rise section we saw before, very, very demanding, very dense, very quick as well. And as we said, the map is mostly back-loaded, and it is gonna get more intense towards the ending. But up until here, having MSC, it's quite impressive. But your stamina is probably starting to run out already, and most of what we saw was Rise-based. We're still missing, the long node difficulty. And as you can tell, the pattern now is looking a lot like long nodes, and it's escalating in speed, and you can imagine how this is gonna end, right? I don't need to tease it anymore.
Yeah, honestly, like I want to say the breaks and the tiebreakers are sometimes the hardest parts of the map pool because the breaks, the pressure really builds up into your fingers and makes you miss for unknown reasons, really.
Here you go from speed streams into their very dense jump stream with mini jacks on top of it. And yes, I think so. That was an SD. And as we told before, tiebreakers having a speed is something that we are expecting to see. This is no exception. And after that tricky rise, we get some coordination patterns on the LM department, but the song just speeds itself up a little bit, and the pattern gets rougher and rougher and rougher. And it's not over yet.
Jump trail! Oh, not quite.
No, not quite at all. Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably like one of the most stressful experience they're gonna get in this ending. Like, there are 10,000 reasons you'll miss here. Either it be the physicality of this, the coordination required for this part. This is incredibly physical.
Yeah, that is very, very, very physically demanding, and the lands are like hands on middle of this kind of things are so tricky to hit. And to top it up, you have the trill, or not the trill, like the jump trill-ish pattern, the rolls over there at the ending to kill your run if you're doing great. And man, if a tiebreaker gets decided by the roll at the end, I'm gonna scream.
Yeah, and I think like all the players who are gonna get into actual TB situation are gonna be so stressed out, and they have to play this after playing 10 maps before that. Um, yeah, I don't expect many high scores on this.
No, not at all. But I think this is the kind of map where we can start seeing those like rising teams that are very good at late game being comfortable enough. I think the map is still in the range of, being comfortable for players that are all-rounder but are on the higher end of the physicality here. I don't expect to see like extremely high scores though. 990k on this would be very, very insane. In a match as well, pretty tricky. I don't think we'll get to see that. But
Okay,
980s, I
yeah.
think it's something that is reasonable to expect from one or two players
Let's
in
put
like
it
every
this
match.
way. If you are getting 990k on this TB, you are skill banned.
Yo, it seems like
It's
laser
not actually
crashed.
true, but well, my laser crashed. No, no. Oh sevens for the laser. Oh sevens for the laser.
Unfortunate situation. But yeah, pretty much. With that, we have displayed the entirety of the map pool of the quarterfinals stage. We will soon follow that up with the bracket stage whenever the laser client decides to revive. There it goes. It seems like it's up. But yeah, it's a bit of a step up. I think every pick compared to previous round is like relative to round 16 and round 32 difficulty. I think this jump is a little bit more intense. It's quite bigger compared to what we saw before. Although it's normal in tournaments that the quarterfinals jump is like the biggest. That and sometimes finals to grand finals. But yeah, in this particular instance, Rice got quite up there. The Alliance I still think are somewhat manageable on the physical side of things due to having 2 or 3 options that are fairly straightforward in the physical aspect. But Rice, I think we're starting to get to the point where the physical bar for playing any Rice map has just gotten a bit too high for lower seeded teams. They will have to prove me wrong here though. But I can see some teams struggling on the physical department already in this pool, in an entire category at least.
Yeah, speaking of the teams, I want to see which teams are going to face next week. Let's pull up the bracket, shall we?
Let's see then. As we see on
Oh,
the top left, Vietnam versus China.
oh, that
That's
is a very geographically close matchup.
oh,
They are
yeah.
literally touching on the map.
I mean, I still need to see the rest of the bracket, but Vietnam China may be my favorite already. Scene
Yeah,
number
yeah.
1 against a very talented Chinese team here, who just
Um,
managed to knock Indonesia out
red
of the winners
background
bracket.
jump scare, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's the red matchup on top left. Vietnam China looking very, very interesting to see. But honestly, at this point, it feels like every single winners bracket encounter is insane because on the same side of the bracket here, we have the United States against the Philippines. Philippines, of course, winning against Italy here, which I don't think came as much of a surprise, but the Italians certainly coming out there, taking 2 points off of the Philippines here, facing a United States that is looking kind of unstoppable, really. They haven't lost a single point since the tournament started here. Philippines were looking to not just that, but perhaps even secure themselves a spot in the semifinals winners bracket here. I think that's also a very intense matchup to see. And I believe it's seed 4 versus seed 5. So
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting to see those particular countries facing each other in quarterfinals because, like, many years ago, you'd think like US versus PH was gonna be a grand finals matchup. I think in
yeah,
42 or 3 would have been the case.
for the M1 was Argentina, United States. For the M2 was Argentina, United States as well. But Philippines always came third there, and they faced both the United States and Argentina there. And Philippines has always been there. They're always a team that you have to be careful with. They even won the 4DG Mania World Cup at some point once. So did the United States, to be fair. So twice at least. So a very interesting matchup here between two teams that have history, a lot of it, in a tournament like this. And on the other side, the rest of the contenders on the winners bracket, Malaysia against Canada. We had a very, very incredible matchup there on the winners bracket between Canada and Sweden, 6-4, as we expected and predicted. One of the most intense matches we have seen last week. And now, with the Swedish down on the losers bracket, it comes down to Canada to take down another team, Malaysia, that is looking quite the threat. They disposed of Poland 5-0.
and then only bleeding once against the Germans. So Canada, of course, having a tricky way here with a very strong Swedish team and taking Argentina on the way as well. This will be another match that I think could be quite interesting.
Yeah, honestly, Sweden taking 4 points against Canada is actually incredible, and I cannot wait to see like Sweden in the losers bracket. We're gonna see who they are against in the losers bracket, but Malaysia Canada with this year's lineups is looking pretty spicy, especially on this quarterfinals map pool.
And on the bottom side of this side of the bracket, the big surprise I think so far of the tournament, the United Kingdom, who takes down Thailand on a 6-4 run, quite the match, and they are facing Uprising Stars of Taiwan here, another team that has not lost a single map since the tournament started, and teams like Australia and Hong Kong were on their way, so quite a run here by the Taiwanese, but they are facing a United Kingdom that is looking for a match and a half. They've been playing so well, taking down Romania on their first way here, and then Thailand, seed number 6, knocked down to the losers bracket this early on by the British, who just were looking unstoppable really on some of the picks, and they will be looking to transition that against Taiwan. Quite a threat here. Taiwan is a very, very complete team. It feels like they have like no weakness whatsoever. But as the pools start to get into the late game, we might start to see a giant or two bleed just a little bit. And United Kingdom will try their best to take that opportunity if it comes down to that. But that will be it for the winners bracket. Quite a stacked one. Only 8 teams remain.
Yeah, you can see like the teams who have lost in the winners bracket are sent to the losers brackets, and I cannot believe that some of those players are gonna be in the losers bracket, starting with Thailand versus France. First of all, Thailand in losers bracket is kind of insane to me in quarterfinals, like this early, and they're gonna be facing France, a pretty underrated team, I want to say. I think France is going to start to shine at this point of the tournament. But Thailand is also historically a very, very strong team that has gotten to winners bracket in the winners bracket. That has gotten through the winners bracket in the past years, up to finals or grand finals.
It's going to be tricky though. Thailand is such a strong team as well, but they are coming rough when it comes to morale. Getting knocked out of the winners bracket this early certainly is going to hurt them a little bit. And not only that, but at this point forward, as you can see, there's another match right afterwards that is a conditional match that happens between the winner of this and Hong Kong and the Netherlands. So any team that is on the losers bracket right now will have to play 2 matches this weekend if they win. If they lose, of course, they are eliminated the moment they lose the match. But Hong Kong against the Netherlands, another match that is kind of strange to see this early on. Netherlands historically being a pretty solid team, now taking down Colombia on their way through this stage. Hong Kong getting, I don't want to say stomped, but Taiwan certainly looked a lot more powerful than anyone could have anticipated. Hong Kong wasn't able to take a single point. But now against the Netherlands, they're looking for revenge and for a spot through the quarterfinals. If they win though, France or Thailand will be waiting. And honestly, the first 4-way matchup of the losers bracket is looking quite insane.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. That's going to be a battle for time zones as well. Are they going to get friendly time zones like Thailand versus Hong Kong or France versus Netherlands? Like that's going to be very easy to schedule. But otherwise, Europe versus Asia is going to be a little bit more difficult to schedule, but not that much, I want to say, compared to America versus Asia. Anyways, let's go into the rest of the losers bracket. The Sweden versus Brazil. Oh my God, what is this matchup?
What is this matchup? Yeah, this is a match that I would have expected to see a little bit further through the tournament. But wow, Brazil is the only team so far in the entire tournament to play both tiebreakers. They played a tiebreaker against Japan, they lost. They played a tiebreaker against Spain, and they won. Spain, Brazil, on losers round of 16 was incredible as well. Like, why is that match happening that early? And now they're facing Sweden. So if I was Swedish, I would practice a tiebreaker just in case, because Brazil has been playing them a lot. And honestly, I kind of want to see Sweden get through and go as far as possible because they are my favorite top seed. But Brazil is a team with such an amount of experience that's going to make it so hard for them.
Yeah, I want to say that both of the teams are pretty experienced tournament players. Like the lineups have been pretty similar throughout the years, so I think this matchup is going to be pretty interesting. And I want to say like this is one of the main contenders for TB matchups. And speaking of TB matchups, the Deutschland, Germany, I mean, versus Chile, it's also looking pretty close. I must say. The German lineup has been getting better and better throughout the years, and this year, I think they're looking pretty scary.
Yep, they managed to take a singular point to Malaysia, and that's quite a feat, I'll say. Unfortunately, not being able to take any more than that, but they will be facing Chile here, who struggled a little bit against Singapore, but managed to get through, avoiding tiebreaker in a very intense match. But now against the Germans, I mean, I think it's an uphill battle here for Chile from now on. They have what it takes to compete, but the Germans are looking quite the threat, and I will be very surprised if we see a South American matchup here after the two matches are concluded. My prediction is Sweden against Denmark. No, against Denmark, no, but like the Germans. But I don't know. I think we could see a surprise.
Looking into the next four-way matchup, starting with is it Italy?
Yes, that is Italy.
Italia
Russia.
versus Russia. That is an interesting matchup as well. Like those are two teams that you do not see too often on the forefront here, but I want to say like this is gonna be kind of an underrated matchup, like the battle of the underdogs, really.
A little bit, though. Russia got upset by Germany on the winners bracket on the first round of 32. So they found themselves in a very early losers bracket that they were probably not expecting. And now they have to face Italy. Like, Italy's not an easy team to face at all. And it's a team that scales fairly well through the late game as it goes through. So is Russia, to be fair. But I think Italy's like one of those teams that scales a little bit better. This is like the breaking point for both teams, though. Is this pool hard enough for the Italians to start to pick up? Is it easy enough that they still struggle a little bit with the accuracy department and Russia can capitalize off of it? Or is it just the other way around? So, quite the matchup. I think this may be one of the most unpredictable ones.
Yeah, honestly, like both ways. I don't know. I don't know either of the teams. I don't know how either of the teams is going to scale on the quarterfinals map, especially since it ramps up that much going from round of 16. So the information that they have from now round of 16 and maybe qualifiers also starts to be relevant here. It's going to be a little bit difficult to navigate through. Next matchup is going to be very interesting. It's going to be Peru versus Argentina, and this is going to be the South American showdown. And I want to say this is going to be a harder battle for the Twitch mods than the actual players.
Well, there's a problem with this matchup, though. I'm pretty sure Peru forfeited the tournament, so that's probably a free ticket for Argentina through this stage specifically.
Let's go Argentina! Let's go Argentina!
So yeah, I mean I'm Argentinian myself, so haha, let's go. But yeah, Italy or Russia will be facing off for a ticket to face Argentina on the second conditional, like on the conditional losers bracket. So yeah, unfortunate that Peru decided to forfeit after all. There were some hiccups. They struggled a little bit against the United States and they decided to call it quits. Which, I mean, they are allowed to do so. But sad to see them go this way. Have been, of course, way better to see them, playing the match. But it's all good. Unfortunately, that matchup has already been decided then by the forfeit, and we will probably schedule it despite of in regards of them forfeiting the match is going to be scheduled anyways. It's just that it's going to be considered a win by default for Argentina. So next one, Indonesia and Mexico.
Oh, and that is gonna be a heck of a matchup in terms of scheduling. South America versus Southeast Asia. That's gonna be a huge gap in terms of time zones. Good luck for scheduling. In
Yeah.
terms of in terms of players, though, I want to say Mexico is pretty underrated. Indonesia has historically been pretty strong throughout the years, so I think a tall order and pretty scary matchup for Mexico here. I think Mexico's gonna be kind of the underdog team in this situation, but they definitely have a chance here.
I mean, Mexico seed 14. They are not like that big of an underdog, I will say. They struggle with Australia, sure, but I think they were missing a player as well. I expect Mexico to be a team that could take points off Indonesia in almost every category. But maybe Indonesia just has a little bit more gas to go through. Even still, I think this may be my pick for the losers bracket. I think this is the match I want to see the most, other than, well, maybe Sweden, Brazil as well. That's also quite intense. And France against Thailand. But of the first matchups, I think Indonesia Mexico might be a match that a lot of people is not like paying too much attention to, but I think it's gonna be quite close.
Yeah, be on the lookout for a TB ping on Indonesia versus Mexico. Surprise ping. Next matchup and last matchup in this on the screen and on this entire bracket, Japan versus Ireland. And Ireland is here? Yo, Ireland,
Talk
my
about
boy.
talk about a rising team, huh? Romania though did a very impressive job taking them almost to tiebreaker with the resurgence of blue, and unfortunately it wasn't enough. Ireland was winning the match 5-0. They got to 5-4 and managed to steal the last point to notch a spot on the losers quarterfinals here to face Japan. And as much as I love the Irish team, this is gonna be difficult, isn't it?
My opinion is kind of a little bit more nuanced actually, because I think the Japanese team might not scale that well on the quarterfinals map pool, so it's gonna come down to whether the Irish team is gonna be able to take it away from Japan in terms of physicality. It's gonna be a lot of third player strategizing and damage control, I want to say.
Yeah, I think I could see that. I could see the Irish potentially upsetting Japan if they can get themselves into a point where physicality isn't that big of a problem. Because I agree, Japan is a team that historically struggles with late game stuff in the 4DM scene at the very least. They are the masters of SBS though, so they have that down.
It's gonna be their protect for sure.
But yeah, that will be the last matchup of the losers bracket. We have gone through all of the matches here. Remember there is the conditionals as well. So every block of 4 teams from top to bottom here will be facing each other at some point after the match is over. The winner of course moves on and has to face on the losers semifinals whoever drops from the winners bracket. But from now onwards, any team that is on the losers bracket has to play 2 matches in a row every week. If they win, of course. If they win the first match, then they have to play another one. That is obviously going to be scheduled at a different time. It's not the 2 of them together. And the loser gets eliminated, regardless of the point where it happens. So, yeah, that's essentially it for the bracket stage. If I had to call a favorite here, I think Indonesia-Mexico might be my favorite match of the losers bracket. Closely followed by Sweden and Brazil.
Sweden, Brazil, hands down. Sweden, Brazil, hands down.
Honestly, I think I want to make an honorable mention to winner of Thailand versus France against winner of Hong Kong versus Netherlands. I think that has a lot of potential too.
Yeah, I'm Sweden pilled. Forgive me for being Sweden pilled, but I do think that being French, of course, Thailand versus France itself is going to be pretty interesting, knowing both of the teams historically. They have a little bit of history in the past years. I've played for the French team before. I've faced Thailand before. We have a little bit of history here. So yeah. I think this is gonna be an interesting matchup.
From the top side of the bracket, though, the winners bracket, it's only 4 matches. My pick, I mean, I
Vietnam, China,
yeah.
hands down.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting too excited over there. I think the United States Philippines can also be pretty interesting,
Yeah, that's a
but
close second. Yeah.
I want to see the United Kingdom taking Taiwan to a point they are not used to. Like, I don't know if the UK has what it takes to win the match, but boy, am I interested to see how far they can make it. It would be quite the monumental task for them to beat Taiwan. But I don't know, I just have this unconditional glimmer of hope that they may be able to do it. But just every match here on the winners bracket is looking insane.
Yeah, quarterfinals as a whole is looking pretty interesting as the bracket advances. Teams are getting eliminated, and the best of the best are rising through this bracket and eventually succeeding into the semifinals, the finals, and the grand finals, and to get our final winner.
Yep. But with the bracket review completed, I think we can finally call it quits for the weekend. It was a long weekend. Unfortunately, not the longest one that we will have, because quarterfinals is arguably the most dense in terms of staffing. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of matches happening either at the same time or conditionally, a lot of scheduling shenanigans, a lot of, you know, staff that needs to be scheduled for times they may not even have to show up at the end of the day. So I wanted to take this little moment as well to shout out the entirety of the staff that is helping 4DM to be the thing it is. All the effort that is being put by all the referees, streamers, and commentators, map selectors as well. There is a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes to make sure you guys cruise through this tournament without difficulties, enjoying it as much as you can. Because at the end of the day, that's our main goal, really. And next week is going to be tough. So if you can, that will be awesome. But if you don't, it's also fine. It would be very cool if you can show some love to the staff of the 4DM team that is working very, very hard. Maybe say, be friendly with your referee, send them your love, appreciate the commentary or stream, or even give your feedback in the Mappool feedback channel in a proper manner. Everything that is like a constructive critic is always taken properly, and we always want to take them to improve. Next week is going to be hard, so any portion of love that you can give us is well appreciated.
Yeah, especially since there are quite some quote-unquote innovations in the map pool. And I know that a lot of you have pretty strong opinions about Mappool as a whole, so it's going to be interesting to have some, I think, productive discussions about,
Yeah, exactly.
as a community, how we can evolve Mappools as a whole. In any case, thank you for watching, everyone, and it's been always a pleasure to present you this Mappool. Do you have anything else to say?
I mean, the only thing I kind of have to say is that I'm very tired. So, yeah, it has been a long week. It's time for us to go take our sleep that we want and thrive for. And I hope it is the same for you guys. Those who have followed the stream a fair bit are probably feeling tired already. And even those that didn't, it's also fine. Go get some sleep. Train if you're a player, because next week is looking quite harder compared to what we saw in the past. And of course, if you're still playing, I wish you the best of the lucks in your next matchups. And I hope to see you all next weekend for more action of the 4-Digit Mania World Cup.
Yeah, have a nice Hong Mimi, and see you on the other side.
Bye bye.